welcome. Thanks, Josh Chandler, for coming in and doing this today. How you doing, brother?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. We're really excited. I've been bragging about you. Everybody I know, when I see one of your trucks driving around town, I always say, man, that's my buddy Josh. I see him everywhere, so I'm saying that all the time.
Well, when he was bragging on you, man, I had to look you up, and I saw a little post, I think, on either on Instagram or Facebook, man. You were driving a golf cart through a massive warehouse, and I guess that was your shop, your warehouse for your business, right?
Yes, sir. That's a new factory we just built.
The new factory.
How big is that thing?
It's 200,000 square feet.
200. That's like Elon Musk. You got like the Gigafactory.
The Gigafactory. What y'all doing though? So no one in. First of all, I'm glad you came and did this. I mean, you got an amazing story to tell. I know. We chatted a couple years ago. I was just kind of getting your story of what y'all been able to do to grow. I was telling these guys before you came in years ago, man. I remember I came out to your house and someone had stole your boat and cut the engines out.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
But I remember when I came out there and you were drawing swimming pools.
I was just at the time, construction was a little slower. Was that like 2008? I think everything was slower, and I was using my CAD skills just to make extra money on the side.
So tell us a little. What do you mean by CAD skills?
So I'm a draftsman. I'm not an architect or an engineer, but I think I know a little bit of it. And so I figured out I was pretty good at drawing. I drew a few houses and drew a lot of swimming pools and make extra money on the side.
Nice, man. So tell us a little bit of tell us your backstory.
Man, from Pilot Point, went to high school there, left there, went to Tarleton State to play football. 2 years later, working summers at the cabinet shop. It was a small company, and I learned some skills in college, drafting and some people skills and some the skills that we learned, and I brought those back. And I asked my dad, I was like, hey, if you're willing to like grow the company, I'll leave and I'll be here full time. He said, do whatever you want to do. I said, okay. So we did that.
How big was it back then?
We had 6 employees.
And now y'all have over 200?
Yes.
Wow. Holy moly. What year was that?
And 97, 98.
So you went to school, played some football, came back, and jumped into the business and ready to rock and roll?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's kind of like a little Gary V story, coming in and scaling it up. Like, so was that tough when when you're obviously you had a vision for the business that maybe, your dad, he had kind of a smaller shop, obviously.
Right.
How did that kind of transpire with you being able to share that vision with him?
Yeah, it was a challenge at times, but having my dad is like, if you're in the cabinet industry, my dad is the guy. Like if I was going to grow the business with anybody, he was the best guy to do it with, and it just happened to be my dad. So I got really fortunate for that.
Heck yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. So, it took about the first 3 ideas, I had to twist his arm, and then after he got comfortable, he kind of just let me go, and my brother as well.
Were you always an entrepreneur? Man,
I started a company when I was 22, building houses actually.
Really?
Yeah. And I always had a lot of drive, still do, and always looking for something. Always was looking for something better, but we found our niche with the cabinet company and kind of stuck with that. And
how many cabinet? I mean, what how big are y'all?
Volume wise, we're putting out about 16 to 20 new homes a day.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
20 a day?
A day. Yes.
Golly, that's crazy.
That's incredible. Well, you're in the right market too,
I know we're very fortunate. Don't act like it's all me. I think being in Dallas and maybe the best market in the country.
Yeah, I see your trucks everywhere, and y'all put out an amazing product. Y'all don't just do cabinets, do you?
Yeah, pretty much just cabinets. Yeah.
Gotcha. I see just some cool stuff on when you post. It looks like, I don't know if y'all like design tables and furniture now. I thought I saw something like that.
We do a little bit of that and some architectural millwork, but mostly just cabinets.
Okay, cool, man. Cool. So, how is so going back in time, you started that in 96, and then you found you started the market I guess when it flipped, that hit y'all pretty hard.
Um,
And when the real estate market back in 08?
In 08, yeah. And I think it's a good learning curve for me at least. My dad has been to a few recessions, and I mean, a 2000 recession wasn't really hard on our business, but so I learned it was a good learning curve. And
What'd you learn?
you know, you learn to save your money and be very conservative.
Right?
Yeah.
So had you scaled up pretty big, like during the boom? You know, that's the challenge, is you build up this big business and an infrastructure to be able to support all the growth. You know, everything was on fire, 2004, 2005, 2006, you know, all that boom. You know, like what did you do? You know, did you have to kind of make some cuts? You have to shift your strategy?
We did, backing up, I didn't mention my brother, he came into the business a few years after me. And so that was also a big help. I think my dad and my brother and I figured out that in the cabinet business, we're like the three-headed monster. We're really good together. So we all have our strengths and things, and it works out perfect. But yeah, so we scaled the business up pretty fast. I think we were growing at like 30% per year.
Holy moly.
Wow.
It was kind of hard to maintain that. And then 2008 came and the market dropped out. And we're fortunate that we are kind of conservative. My dad especially is very conservative because he's been through a few downturns, and that's what saved us. And he's like, hey, hey boys, you get through this, and then
Be making some hay.
Yeah, there's not everybody's going to be standing after this is over. And so if you're one of those guys, you're fortunate enough to be there, and we were.
Yeah.
Then we started scaling again. We did have to cut back. We cut back 40%. I mean, which is a lot. We had 100 employees, probably scaled back to 60 at 2008.
Just as a question, and this just hit me, you had at that time. When you have two boys and one little girl?
Yes.
So how old were your boys? But when did you have your first son?
My first son in 04.
04.
And then 07, Jet was born, my second son.
Gotcha. Are they going to take over?
Man, I think so. It's funny because my 3-year-old Victoria, I think she's more excited about it than anybody. So
Really?
she's I take her for a ride in the factory, and she's in charge, and she's telling me what to do. So we'll see how that works out.
So did you say before you built this factory, did you guys had a lot of different locations where all this work was happening?
We over the years, as we were scaling, and like I said, we were growing 30% every year. We were building, small shop, and we ended up with 11 locations in 2000. I guess when we decided to finally build on the new property, which we bought the new property in 2010.
Yeah.
With expectations of building a big factory one day, and we just kind of procrastinated because it was just too easy to build one small building at a time. But we realized, in 2016, 2017, this is getting really inefficient, so we had to make a change.
So how's that efficiency now, having everybody in one spot?
Man, it's great. The morale's great. We get all of our people back under one roof, which is great. So we're like one big family. It's really nice.
Man, so what's your day like?
My day's a little crazy because I don't just do one thing. I'm either meeting a customer, or I'm in the office, or I'm in the factory, or I'm on an airplane. So
what do you travel for?
And I travel. I go to conferences with other business owners in my space, and we try to innovate and come up with new ideas. A couple times a year we try to figure out what the next trend is going to be and things like that.
Gotcha. What's the trend now?
Man, the trend now is, you remember 2005? It's not that. It's like it's actually less is more, straight lines. You're going to see some color changes. We went from teal as a accent color. Now we're at like dark blue or navy blue is the next trend. And then it's, you're going to have white, but we're going to have black and graphite, and those dark grays are going to be really popular for the next couple of years.
Nice, man. Have you ever had one of those really big projects that, like, a big deal you had to close that was like, man, if we get this is going to be a game changer for us?
Well, we're doing a 25,000 foot house right now, so that was a big deal. That was a good.
That is a big. Yeah, I think that's defined as a big deal. 25,000 square foot, man. How many ACs they're gonna have? Like 8,
Probably.
But that, and our I think our bread and butter, or our niche of the business is probably your production custom home builder. So we sign contracts for larger builders. That's where we do best because it's consistent.
Now, when you were growing this thing, how hard was it to manage? You know, and this is just me. I got 3 boys. Did you coach anything?
Oh, I coached. Yeah.
What'd you coach?
I coached soccer.
Oh,
and,
nice.
And football.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's what I coach. Soccer. I got soccer practice at first game tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Did you coach tackle football?
I did.
Nice.
I did flag and tackle.
Nice. Did you like it?
I liked it.
Now everyone's doing jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Huh?
Yeah. I do that with my sons, or have done that with my sons. Yeah.
You like it?
I like it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So let me ask you a question. Would you say you're an introvert or extrovert?
I think it depends on what day it is.
Well, I'm definitely introverted, but I can be extrovert. I can be. What would you say you are?
Man, I think I'm introverted, but it's the same way. I think, you know, especially, I think first of all, I think introverts can make great entrepreneurs. I think I think people think that you have to be this big, dynamic, outgoing personality, and to be really successful, right? You got to be out there in front of the camera and stuff. But I think in reality, you know, being an introvert, if you're a little more introspective, you're a little more thoughtful. I think really to be successful in business, you just got to care about people and really care about helping them.
Absolutely. It's about relationships and taking care of people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure your business just thrives on relationships. I mean, you know, because, you know, it's all, I mean, how much your business is direct to consumer versus, you know, builders and stuff like that, right?
Mostly builder, and
Yeah.
we have a relationship, and they have, you know, they know they can call me and I'll answer the phone any time of day.
Right. Yeah.
What would people say if I asked your brother or your dad and they said, "What's Josh just really really good at?" What would they say?
I think I'm probably the visionary of the 3, and without them 2, my vision is nothing.
All flat.
And so it's good. They pull me back a little bit, like, hey, calm down. We'll get there. You know, so I'm always I'm a little ADD, so I'm bouncing off the walls trying to push the next idea, and they're like, you know, pulling me back, and it works perfect.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's like the producer-performer relationship. You know, what book is that talks about that? Self-Made Billionaire
Effect.
Yeah, Self-Made Billionaire Effect. You know, it's a really interesting book, and they talk about a lot of super successful companies usually have this dynamic where you have a producer who is kind of like the visionary, you know, somebody who's, you know, really thinking about
Creating the
high-level
value.
strategy. Yeah. And then you've got performers, which are really high-level executioners that, you know, can make that vision a reality, but also help temper the visionary. And when there's that mutual respect there and it's perfectly aligned, that's when you really get exponential growth. And it sounds like you're tapping into a little bit of that magic.
Yeah, it seems like you can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it without my brother. And I'm pretty sure he wouldn't want to do it without me. So it works out really good.
Well, it sounds like you guys are a close family, man. Like how did that closeness, I mean, it seems like it might be hard for especially, you know, really driven, you know, guys to work together in a really cohesive way. I mean, you know, what like going back into your family dynamic made that be able to happen like that?
I think from the get-go, there was a few struggles. I'm not going to lie. I mean, a family business, working with your brother and your dad. My mom was in the business then. And I think my dad structured it very well. He put me out in the field. He put my brother in the, you know, like in the operations. And that's still what we do today. My brother's the operations guy, and I'm usually out in the field doing meetings and doing that part of the business. So it works out really good.
So if would you say that you're a really close family? Obviously you work together, but outside of work, I mean, you guys spend a lot of time together at work, and, you know, do you guys hang out together and do a lot of things together?
Yeah, we do. I mean, holidays and things, my brother he's got kids and I have kids. We all, you know, not enough because I live in Frisco and he lives in Pilot Point with his family, but we try.
Yeah, gotcha. That's awesome, man.
Well, you used to live in Pilot Point.
I did.
Yeah. That was like the little. You lived right next to your dad, right?
My brother.
That was your brother?
Yeah.
Gotcha. That would have been really cool.
Yeah, no, we had fun. I decided to send my kids to Frisco schools, and it was just too far to drive. So
heck yeah, man. Frisco's got some great schools. So do you see? So tell us about what do you feel like? As far as you're concerned, do you feel like social media or any type of, from a marketing perspective, are y'all having to get into the online stuff, or does that not even affect your business?
We don't do much advertising because we're builder based, mostly. As we expand and we spin off we're about to spin off a closet brand called Chandler Closets, and once we do that, it's going to be more advertising. We're gonna have to, and I know social media is where it's at. We're in a different day and age, and this. I mean, I've learned from you. I've been watching you for a while, so yeah, it's
I've seen some of the so y'all have done some closets, right? That you put. They look like NBA locker rooms.
Yeah, we do quite a few closets, but we don't really advertise it, and so we want to focus on that a little bit.
That sounds like that might be one of your babies. Did that come from you? Is that one of your your big ideas?
Yeah, I'm pushing it. Yeah.
And what's driving that?
Just the when I go to these conferences and I see we look at the numbers, and closets just became $1 billion business in the United States. So. And we're really good at closets, so why wouldn't we jump in and
increase that? I mean, you probably, when the builder gets the request, y'all, it goes to y'all anyway.
We get a lot of that.
Yeah. Interesting, man. So tell us something. So through this whole thing, I mean, a lot of the things, we have the Get Money Now podcast, and guys, if you get a chance, go join the group online. Go to joingetmoneynow.com. We have a Facebook group. Where we interview people like Josh. Josh is a uberly successful entrepreneur, but we were chatting beforehand. What's one of the biggest challenges? Have you ever been in a place where you thought about doing something different than you are right now? Have you ever been to the brink of, man, maybe this isn't the idea?
I would say right at first when we started scaling the business, and I wasn't. Nothing ever happens fast enough for me, especially then. We had no money. We were, we owned a business, and we felt like I just had a job, So we were living paycheck to paycheck back then, and so that was a struggle. And I was thinking, what else can I do to get money faster? And there's really no way besides hard work.
Right.
Really good ideas and hard work. That's what it takes. From my point of view.
So it just wasn't growing fast enough, and you were like, man, what else could I?
It's hard to grow when you're small and you're trying to, the overhead's there. You have to buy materials before you get paid for a job. So you're investing in your company, but you don't have a lot of money to invest. So you can only grow so fast.
Right.
And we never asked for any kind of outside help or investments or investors. We wanted to own the business ourselves, and so we struggled a little bit at first, but once we started scaling, and then the next challenge is from that point to about halfway where we are now. You decide you either need to be smaller or bigger at that point, and of course we're not going backwards. So we kind of broke through that ice, and then and after that I never thought about doing anything else. It's like, this is what we do.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
And what's the big vision? Like, if you were to look out 10 years, I mean, do you think you can? Are you trying to have this thing have 1,000 employees? You trying to go expand? I mean, what's the big vision?
Yeah, I have some goals that are pretty big. I think in the next 5 years we want to probably, if not double, close to double. And we have more land. We have 20 acres where we're at, so we have room to grow. And
I got to come out and
another
check
200,000 square feet.
Yeah, not that much more, but I think we'll innovate and automate more. We automated, and that takes up less square footage, and so we'll see.
You never know, man. I've seen some of the. Tell me about how you got into this. I saw a piece of furniture I thought you built. So are y'all building maybe it was like a coffee table or something like that? Are y'all building, just messing around, kind of looking at the tools and what y'all can do? Are y'all trying to do like custom stuff for the cabinets to?
I mean, we do stuff like that. We've thought about offering furniture, and I have an e-commerce site where we're going to launch when we get the closet stuff going. And we thought, well, maybe we could sell this really cool coffee table over and over, and maybe a few other pieces, but that's not really our main focus.
Yeah. Well, we got a buddy that he started selling online. Here's what I know. I went to a marketing conference, and it was a guy on Amazon, and what they said was, anytime that you can right now, to dominate Amazon, you have to be able to manufacture your own product, literally. So what happens is, let's say we want to go sell a juicer or bulletproof coffee. A lot of Amazon sellers, they're selling other people's product. If you can manage your own manufacturing, basically the whole concept was it's limitless. Like how much money you can make is limitless if you make a good product, obviously. Well, a buddy of ours started making these little metal signs, and his story's kind of like yours. When we're done, I'll show you his video of his factory. But he's built a factory. He's had to buy these $1 million machines that cut metal. But let's say you had a lake house and you wanted a maybe a sign with your last name and Lake Place or whatever. They make them and they sell them on Instagram. And last I heard, and I'll give a broad range, but he was doing on the low end, $250,000 to $500,000 a day in sales on Pinterest.
Wow!
And so his name is I'll give a little shout out to Colin Wayne, but his name's Colin Wayne. He lives in Birmingham, Alabama, and he has just built a massive business and the concept. Obviously, I heard the concept differently. When you look at people and you're saying, why are they successful? One of the things is, he's got a sales and marketing funnel. He's driving traffic to an e-commerce site from Pinterest, which a lot of the people on Pinterest has the highest commercial intent, meaning when people are on Pinterest, they have the highest probability of spending money or buying something. And so I took that with the concept that when I set through this Amazon guy who is just, for them, they got to go to China, find a product, bring it back, negotiate it. But if you can get into that kind of that perfect spot of, man, we can produce this. And they were making metal signs, so they had custom ones, but they would run, and I've seen somebody, like they'd make metal flags, and they would have a, President's Day sale, and, they would do, and I'm making this up, Colin, but, I'm just going off the conversations we had, but literally, I want to say like 10,000 orders in a day or.
Oh yeah, more. I mean,
something ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. And then once you build that buyer, that list, it's like, okay, now we have it's almost like going back in the day and having a Sears catalog, right? You have all these buyers that bought this one thing. It's like, okay, well, if we engineer this, what percentage of those people? So people who can manufacture things like yourself at scale, I think have an unfair advantage in the new economy. Especially because, you don't have to have a store, right? You can ship anywhere in the world. And when you dial those things in, especially if you get a good, kind of a good niche and a good product and build that client base, I think it's an unbelievable opportunity outside of obviously what you're doing just in the manufacturing side.
Yeah, well, I love the idea too of even, expanding on the closet concept, being able to get into e-com, because you've built the business with that manufacturing type base, and you've built it on relationships, obviously. So you've never really had to have like retail storefront and things like that, which I think now in this economy can be a trap for people who have kind of gotten into that retail mindset and that model. That model could have caused them to be successful and help them expand, 15 years ago, is probably like an albatross around their neck right now, because of the mental models and the way that you think about the business is completely different when you're thinking from that retail mindset. So you've already got the infrastructure, the manufacturing plant, you got the factory. And you pair that with the e-com, man, that could be something really special.
Yeah, I think the brick and mortar, like you said, can be a hindrance, and that's the overhead that you really most people don't need.
Right.
We're living in an amazing time in our life. Like we're lucky to be in our prime in 2020, where we have avenues like Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, where my dad didn't have that,
Yeah.
Right.
back then. So,
And just even if you wanted to produce this video, and we would have had to produce it with cameras that were $50,000 and edit. I mean, to produce a VHS like video versus what we could produce now is, I mean, you can literally shoot from an iPhone. You can shoot cinema quality video. There's apps out there like Film Mic Pro, which is one we use.
Yep.
You know, it'll allow you to shoot literally movies from your phone. This is actually a moment case, so it actually has a 8mm lens that will hook straight up to it. And when you hit that app, I mean, you can really do some amazing things. So yeah, it's definitely one of those things that if you have the opportunity to be an entrepreneur right now, you can really get market share, especially if your competitor is not thinking like you said. You said it right when you walked in. It's something about disruption.
Yeah, it's like, no, I've been watching you for a while, and I said, I like your innovation. Like, you're very innovative. And
Yeah.
I said, in this day and age, in any company or just solo, if you innovate or you die, there's no in between. Like,
Right.
if you don't innovate, you're going to get left behind.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. What's the one thing, if you were going to give your kids advice about entrepreneurship, what would you tell them?
I mean, I would first let them know it's not easy and it takes a lot of hard work. You know, because I think a lot of these millennials, a lot of young kids have this idea in their mind that it's easy to make money. It's not easy to make money ever. Like, even we have these tools, it makes it easier, but it's still, you have to work your butt off.
How do you install hard work into your kids and at the same time want to buy them everything? That's what I'm trying to.
That's a struggle, especially with my daughter. That kind of has me wrapped around her fingers. So,
Man, I had a good conversation with my daughter the other night. So I've got a daughter who just turned 15, and here in Texas, you can get your permit at 15. So we're going through that process, right? And so we're talking to, she's, already heavily discussing cars, right? And putting the wish list out there on me pretty hard and heavy, and her mother. And we were having this conversation, and man, it was putting me off a little bit. I was starting to sense a little bit of entitlement, and that was really bothering me. And we sat down and we just had a really good conversation about sacrifice. There's going to be you're going to have to exchange something to get something. There is, in this life, in this universe, there is no something for nothing. It does not exist. So you're going to have to exchange money, and if you don't have money, you're going to have to exchange time. Those are the only two resources that you have to be able to give in order to get something. And I asked her, I was asked her, okay, if you want this, what sacrifice are you willing to make in order to make that a reality? That's a good place to start, because you only have so much. I know what kind of money you have. I know what kind of time you have to invest. So where is the opportunity? And the cool thing I do think about millennials, and I do think about a younger generation, is because they do have a different perspective. Because one of the things she was talking about, we talked about, was she has some discretionary time and some hours in between dance and school and activities and things like that she can be helping out on some social media projects and things that she understands at a very high level. And I loved that, because it instantly flipped the switch from thinking like, well, I can't get a job because I've got dance. I can't do this because I've got this. So, but hey, what could I do in the time that I do have to get what I want? And I think that's the most important thing is to drive that home with kids, is like, you can do something. There's something that you can do. In fact, I'm personally willing to invest in your skills in this area to help you get what you want. We all win. That's all we do as entrepreneurs, is create win-win situations, right, for people.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
The question is, what happens when they don't have that desire?
Yeah,
because like everyone's listening. They're like, well, that's not my daughter.
So this
here's what I do know. I have 3 sons, and the one thing I learned is they're all 3 different. It is unbelievable. They grew up in the same house with the same mom and dad, and they're 3 different. And it's like, I'm constantly trying to figure out, what. maybe there is no strategy. I mean, I don't think anyone had a strategy for me. Maybe just, I do think it's a balance, dude. Cause like every time I go to Target, I have to buy a toy. I do not get out of Target without a toy. You do?
Same.
Yeah.
Well, you established that value exchange at some point.
Yeah. And so
listen, we'll go and I'll get you a toy.
Yeah.
Right, just come on.
We're coming home with at least a Kinder Egg or something, every time.
But you got to leverage that, though. You got to make sure that they're good the whole time. Then you get the toy. Don't buy the toy.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. Yeah, we got to set some rules, or I got to sneak out the house and go to Target.
Yeah, man.
So you have one of the things that we think, if you wrote a book, what would the name of it be?
And I'd have to think about that.
All right, we'll come back. We'll come back to that.
It would have something to do with never quitting.
Well, let's say this: if you could go back and give yourself advice if you could go back 10 years and whisper in your own ear, and you only had literally 20 seconds, and that was it. 20 seconds, boom, you can give yourself advice. What would it be?
I'd say failure is your friend.
I like that.
I think you need to fail once.
What tell us about yours?
So as an entrepreneur,
Yeah,
my dad's retired. He retired in 2012. He still sits on the chair and is involved in some capacity. But until he retired,
is that Buster?
Yeah. So I had other businesses. I probably had 5 other businesses that I created, over the years. Whether it was home building, there's what's the other one? There was
Swimming pools,
MLM stuff that I got involved in. Regret that stuff, but you fail in those areas, and then you learn from them. And fortunately, we didn't fail in the main, in the cabinet business.
What MLM did you get in?
Man, there's I got into, it's kind of embarrassing. A gold, I got in this gold.
Why is it
MLM.
embarrassing?
Well, I guess because I failed.
Yeah, I think people fell in him. My neighbor, he's got a million people in his downline. I think it's one of those things that, if you're going to do it, you got to do it. I've said from stage 4 years ago that if you took everything away from me, I would love to go make MLM work and direct sales. I think it's one of the most powerful business models on planet Earth. But it is one of those things that there's a book out there called GoPro, and the difference is it talks about, at some point you have to learn how to, go outside of the people that you have to be able to create some type of system for, attracting new prospects. And most people, I think when they get in it, they only think about the people they know. And I think it's called network. You have to go out there and network.
It takes a lot of work.
It takes a ton of work. But it's one of the things that continues to work when you don't work. One of those. So you said you did pools, you did the cabinets, you did network marketing. What else did you do?
I had a home building company for a long time, and it wasn't that it failed. It's just I decided that I'd.
Did you not like it?
Well, I liked it. I just didn't have the time. I had other people in place that wasn't running the company the way I wanted.
Yeah.
And so at some point I just said I'm going to focus on cabinets and forget this and my dad retired, and it's funny because now he's a home builder and a real estate developer, and we do some of that stuff together. But I'm focused on the cabinet company. That's pretty much all I do.
Gotcha. What's your advice to somebody if they're building a new home?
Well, you asking personally?
I'm just curious.
I mean,
I know a guy.
You pick the right builder, and you make sure that they're open book and they're transparent. That's the main thing.
Yeah. So like a cost plus.
I would personally do a cost plus and make sure that.
What is that plus? What is that, a range usually?
That's
like when someone says we're going to do cost plus, what's a range that you're seeing right now for a good custom home builder?
I mean, don't do it with the guy that only charges 10%, but don't do the guy that's 25%. Somewhere between 15 and 20% is a. Well, I think they will be happy.
Yeah,
and they'll do a good job.
Gotcha. Nice, man. Nice. Well, I think one of the things that I think is huge, man, and one of the reasons I wanted to have you on here was just to get to know you outside of the business, because one of the things that if you live in our community, Josh is super successful, and we're very fortunate to have him stop by today. But I think that everybody, in my opinion, who is successful is a little weird in some way. he's like, yeah, Mike. What are you into, man, outside of work?
Man, you're too kind. First of all, mostly my kids.
Yeah.
I like to exercise and I like to travel.
Travel? Like where do you want to travel that you haven't been?
And I like to go to. I go to Vegas a few times a year. I go to Miami, 3 or 4 times a year. I take my daughter to Disneyland. That's probably the funnest trip.
Heck yeah. So spending time with that's cool. I mean, he nailed it. I mean, you can't really say that. I would be the exact same way. Do your kids, do they when y'all travel, do all of them usually go with you, or
it just depends.
Yeah, where you're going?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
My daughter's still, she's still not in school. She's in preschool, but we can leave during the school.
Yeah.
School days and go to Disneyland when everybody's not there. So I'll take her by myself, before school lets out and enjoy it that way.
Heck yeah.
Man, so you're obviously a family guy. You think that there's going to be a time in your life where you're going to say, man, enough's enough. I'm ready to kind of move out of the business. Or do you kind of see yourself in the game for the long haul?
It's going to be really hard. My brother has 4 kids. I have 3 kids, and we'll kind of see. I think we'll see how they handle it. If they want to get into the business, I'll probably stick around. If none of the kids want to get involved, then I would, at some point, I don't want to do this until I'm really old. I mean, I might, but who knows? I don't think I'll ever quit working no matter what. But.
Yeah. No, I think that's that kind of that entrepreneur spirit, especially. It's part of it's for me is the fun part is when it's something that you love, and for me it's always learning. If I get to learn, like going to conferences and stuff, and being able to learn and being able to get that community. Do you is there anybody from an entrepreneur's perspective that you've kind of had a big impact outside of your dad on you? You have any mentors?
Yeah, it's funny because my mentors are not in my space. They're in the tech industry.
Oh, really?
So I have 2 good friends that are, I think one of them helped change the internet with cloud, Lance Crosby.
Okay.
And then Chris McFarland is another good friend of mine that had an impact. And it's funny because all those guys are in the tech space, and I think that's kind of one of my passions. And so I kind of try to use that and implement some technology into my business, and it makes it fun and it makes it work.
Heck yeah. Technology, man, that's anytime you can get that. So they both have technology businesses.
Yep.
And they're kind of like people you get to bounce ideas off of and network with.
Yeah, I get to go to galas and things with those guys and watch those guys win, Tech Titan of the Year and
Really?
stuff like that. I've been doing that with them for years, and it's fun to watch.
What did they build?
Lance built software, which is cloud, like he's one of the pioneers of cloud.
Gotcha.
And then Chris McFarland's like internet security, and there's a bunch of different things that he offers, like more business driven.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, it's good to have a network. Any good books you've read? What's a good book you read that's changed the way that you think?
Okay, so you back up to when I started reading books, and it's funny because it's like I would call it like a rookie book. Like somebody should start with this book. It's how to win friends and influence people. And for whatever reason, that one I always think about that book, and then that kind of changed my mindset, and then I kind of grew into other books.
When did you read that?
Man, like 10 years ago.
Who gave it to you?
Or
did you just hear about it and go buy it?
A friend said, "Hey, go read this book," and I read it. I'm like, okay, so it changed my perspective, and then. I've read many books since then. I don't read it as much as I want, but I just read, I think it was 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. It was a good book.
Yeah, I think so. When we're on the road and we do the workshops, one of the things that the only book in the presentation is How to Win Friends and Influence People. And one of the days that we were in between, the book used to not be in the presentation, and I ended up at dinner with 6 or 7 super successful people. And it was so weird. Someone brought up the book, and it was everybody. We ended up having dinner for maybe 2 hours, and everybody talked about the book and who gave it to them, what impact it had. And I always tell people when you buy that book, buy 2 copies. If you're going to read it, buy 2 copies. If you have kids, buy one for each one of your kids. And I think I don't know. I think if the student's ready, I think that book kind of repositions them. And it's relationship. It's really building that relationship with people and understanding. For me, my takeaway from the book was that friendship supersedes anything. So in a negotiation, you'll sell your car to your friend for cheaper than you would a stranger. You'll do more for a friend. And so the mentality and the approach when you're meeting people, for me, when I was in the gym business, they would say, "Hey, Mike Reese, go make Kid Reese, go make a friend." And it was because I had read that same book, and it had the same impact. And man, there's a lot of good books out there, man. And it's books are definitely one of the things that I think is, it's learning. Really, it's learning. It's being a consistent learner. Jim Rohn says, if you don't have everything you want, you have not learned something yet. And what I tell people all the time, I say, listen, first of all, most people don't know and understand. My mental model is this: if I can go back in time and tell myself something and give myself advice and go back in time 5 years, then there's probably somebody right now that's where I want to be that would go back and give themselves advice. And they would give themselves advice based upon if they were where I am right now. And I want to know what advice they would give, right? And so typically that advice is in their book. And so I'm trying to figure out who out there has already been where I'm trying to go, whether that's customer acquisition, leadership, building a culture. Because, books usually have a theme. And the ones that have the best theme for me at the beginning is, and for most people, it's managing yourself. Because most people can't even manage themselves. They don't have the personal discipline. And so they say your success can never exceed your own personal development, right? So it's as you start to grow and you start to learn, you're able to, take advantage of more of the opportunities that you just unconsciously wouldn't see because you can't see what you don't, you don't know what you don't know, right? So that's learning is probably one of the most important things I think that you can never stop doing, is always be learning. The master knows he's always a student.
Yeah, it's always so easy to see the growth mindset, the people that are seekers. The first thing that you were talking about, when you're talking about, where you go, you're saying, well, I'm either, or what your days look like. Well, I'm either on a plane because I'm going to conferences. That success leaves clues, and there's always that commonality of seeking the best to be the best. Going outside of yourself, going outside of your sphere, stepping out to try to find who's got what you want and trying to get it. You can get it in a book, get it in a conference. All of those ways are. I mean, I don't know if I've ever met a successful person in life who hasn't gone down that path of seeking. Who hasn't turned to a book, who hasn't turned to a mentor, who hasn't actually started putting themselves out there, going to conferences. That's just part of the path.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing that I've been told, and I totally agree, is that if your company isn't growing, then your company's losing at some point. You have to grow all the time, and I think as a person, same way. If you're not mentally growing and getting smarter, then you're getting left behind, in my opinion.
Heck yeah. You're always at the gym, man. So you're always working out at you're always in shape. Has that always been your kind of MO?
And I think being in shape is a part of our lifestyle. I think it helps us. If your mind's clear,
yeah,
it's easier to learn.
So how often you working out?
Not enough lately with the new factory, but I'm gonna get back to 3-4 days a week.
Nice, man. Nice. Yeah, you always got to stay on the game.
That's right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, man, I appreciate you dropping in. I know your time is super, super valuable. And, one of the things that, we could, just so you know, we would have kept you here till 11 o'clock. We would just keep talking to you. But, man, I appreciate you jumping on the podcast, the Get Money Now podcast. There's so many people out there that, they're just looking for somebody, that can share the wisdom, whether it's a book. You never know. I watched a podcast the other day. A lady shared a book about about it was what was the name of the book? I forget. Oh, it was a guy wrote a book on stop smoking. I don't smoke, but wrote a book on stop smoking.
Alan Carr.
Alan Carr. It was an amazing book. And he wrote one on not drinking. And it was a comedian. It was on a Joe Rogan podcast. And she said she had smoked forever. She read the book. It told her to smoke during reading the book. And then after she quit, she gave it to her mom. Her mom smoked for 37 years, read the book and stopped. And then he wrote one on not drinking. So I was like, man, I'm going to buy the not drinking book. It was unbelievable. You know, it really was. It was pretty impressive. And I wanted to know what the hell is in a book that would make somebody like that. The first chapter says, hey, go get your favorite beverage. But by the end of this book, you won't want to drink. That's what it said.
Wow.
And I was like, whatever, you know, but it was pretty powerful. So, you know, words and things like this, these platforms that we have like podcasts, you never know what spark of information might inspire someone. So we appreciate you coming out and sharing your story with us today, man.
Yeah, no problem. You know, one last thing I'd want to say is, and I read this article on a plane the other day, and it said, do you know if you counted how many people got 1 foot from the finish line and quit?
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing how many people quit. You're right there. Just, you got to continue and break through. And I look back on my career. If I'd have quit like right before the finish line, I mean, my entire life would be different now. You know?
And what makes you? What do you think people? You just think it comes down to a choice right then? It's like, man, I'm just gonna bite down on my mouthpiece and keep going.
They're out of gas and they're tired, and a lot of people don't have the guts or the wherewithal to push through and get to the finish line.
Yeah.
So that article kind of hit home. I thought it was great.
Heck yeah, you don't want to stop 3 feet from gold.
No,
they don't even know it.
Yeah, they don't even know it. That's like on the mountain. When people climb the mountain, they usually quit somewhere close to the top. Yeah. You know, not at the bottom.
Yeah, man, that's it's just interesting too. You know, that can be learned too. I believe, you know, that comes with discipline. Like, you can train for that. Like even physical training helps you start to get that mindset of not giving up, because, you know, part of the whole process is you're pushing yourself beyond your limits, and you're continuing to see the progress, and you're continuing to grow, continuing to get stronger. Whether you're running, you know, you can't run a mile in the beginning. You can't run 5 miles. You can't run 10. You can't run 20. But then ultimately you can run an ultramarathon if you stay after it. But that's the process, man. I love it.
All right, brother. I appreciate you being on here, man.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
right,
if
brother.
people want to connect with you, man, what's the best way to connect with you?
I would probably say Facebook or Instagram.
Awesome. All right, Josh Chandler, go check him out.
There we go. That's a wrap. Thanks for checking out the Get Money Now podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, you're really going to enjoy our Facebook community. You can become a part of the group by going to joingetmoneynow.com. And also, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe and turn on the notifications so you can be notified of all the new episodes.